I think about 12 is when I started using alcohol to help me feel the way I needed to feel. But the drinking definitely just increased over time.
So we met at 18. We were in Israel. I was in seminary. He was in yeshiva. No parents around. I didn't know that it was an addiction. And I started to see that as we got to become friends, as we got to know each other, as we started dating. I'm like, he drinks a lot. He's addicted to this thing. He needs it and he can't live without it.
We're going out on a date. I'm going to take a flask or something with me. Like, it's always part of every plan, before and after everything.
So yeah, I knew when we were dating, and I'm grateful that I knew. And the next 4 years of dating was on and off, because I knew, red flag, what am I doing? I'll never marry him. But I loved him. We were so connected. I knew, I was drawn to him. My insides were drawn to him. I knew that we were eventually we did get married, and quietly kept that with me. But I knew, and I believed with every fiber of my being. And that was the message from Hashem. This is my partner. This is who I'm meant to be. And that's the reason why I married him.
I'll stop before we get married. I'll stop when the baby's born. I'll stop before the next baby. And all those promises, I couldn't keep them. I looked at the mirror and I hated the person I saw in the mirror.
How long have you been clean for?
Welcome back to an amazing episode of Stories of Hope. But first, before we jump in, I just want to make sure that you are taken care of before Pesach, when there's a lot of spendings and purchases and long lines at the supermarket. I just want to let you in on a little secret that's not a secret, because I tell you every week, PZ Deals has what you're looking for, from the comfort of your couch for the price that you want. Those paper goods, those new pots, those new plates, maybe even groceries and food. So download the PZ Deals app, because with PZ Deals, you'll never pay full price again. Hi, I'm so excited to see you back here at Stories of Hope. Before we begin, I just want to share that this episode contains content of suicidality and addiction. This episode was courageously shared by Chaya and Moishe, two beautiful leaders who have been through the worst and back, and were brave enough to come here and share it with you. To anyone that relates, I hope this episode is that hug, that healing hope that you've been looking for. That's all we want to bring to you. So sit back and get ready for another beautiful, special episode of Stories of Hope. Hi, I'm Tzipora Grodko, and this is the Stories of Hope podcast. I am really excited to be here with Misha and Chaya on this special March 18th Chai Day. So before the episode even starts, I know you're Lubavitch. I feel like it's not a coincidence that we're here on an auspicious day. When you are Jewish, I guess you could find interconnectivity in every day, but right. I love that we're here on Chai.
And I love that we're here in Adar also. Yeah.
Double whammy.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be really special. So let's just unleash your greatness. Let's start with you, Misha. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and give us a glimpse of who we're going to meet today.
Sure. Thanks for having us. So I'll start with, I grew up in Crown Heights in an awesome family of 11 kids and my parents. And our home was very vibrant. There was always a lot happening. A highlight was Shabbos and sitting around the table and singing songs. And the way I picture it now, when I look back, is that a lot was really good. And there was something that I took with me wherever I went. And it was part of my experience, as far as I can recall. And in many ways, and this is kind of, I guess, part of introducing myself, because this thing made its way into school, into friendships, into home, into everything. I wasn't a bad kid. I was a good kid in school. But there was this constant feeling that there was something I needed to compensate for. Right? And it translated into many different things, from acting silly to shoplifting and stealing from tzedakah pushkas and different things, so that I can earn my way into whatever it was. Yeah, that was that. But Crown Heights was, very vibrant, very full. I feel like saying this, I don't know why, but I was 7. No, I was 7 during when the Rebbe had the stroke, and I was 9 by Gimel Tammuz, and that was definitely something significant as a little kid. I only realize now, like on a community level, what we went through. But yeah, that was that. What else can I say? When I was 15, when I was 14, I wasn't doing too good in school, in yeshiva.
You're telling all the power of stuff. Like, is it okay if I butt in and be like casual?
You can't ask me that. You got to ask him.
Is it okay?
Yeah, I mean, she asked me to introduce myself.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm like, wait, what about your whole story? All the things that happened to you?
Yeah. I mean, look, I guess just to give you a picture, I'm 7 years old. I have big pockets in my coat, and that's one of the reasons why I'm the one that takes things and puts things in his pocket. And I come out of the store and I sell these products, and I'm 7. These things are being sold, and then I take the cash and I bring it home so that I could chip in for the laser printer or the computer that we're all, chipping in for. I can't point my finger at anything specific to say, oh yeah, that was the reason why I was doing all these things. I really look back, and everybody tells me, like my relatives, my family, like I was a good kid. I wasn't malicious. I wasn't disrespectful. And I shared my story about 7, 8 years ago, around addiction and recovery. And I had family members, aunts, uncles, reach out to me and say, like, how did we not see that? Like, we saw you were a good kid. It seemed like everything was fine. So, I was generally a good kid, but I was up to those things.
And how old were you when you started your addiction?
So I like to believe that the shoplifting was the first manifestation of that, or acting silly, because I definitely see that whatever behavior or substance I was using, it was ultimately to address a certain, ease a certain discomfort, which again, not conscious at all. So I like to believe it was very young, probably 6, 7 at those ages, again, acting silly to get attention, which acting silly is fine. It's good to act silly. It's good for, to entertain the Shabbos table and to have fun. But when I look back and I noticed that, yeah, there was something there. Always. This constant, not enoughness, not belonging, don't belong. Yeah, you don't belong here, and there's something you got to do to earn your place here. And because I'm in a deficit, I have to overcompensate. Right. So at school, it was, I have to bring a ton of snacks and share it. I have to be amazing at sports. I have to be incredibly impressive in all the gimmicks and different things that I practice in front of mirrors, So that's what was going on until I think about 12 is when I started using alcohol to help me feel the way I needed to feel. Right. So it started at as a 12-year-old going to bar mitzvahs, and everybody else seemed fine to dance, but I needed something. And also because I couldn't just dance. I had to do a flip on the dance floor over somebody doing a headstand. I have vague memories, but I remember like taking everybody's cup who got like a teeny tiny drop, and then I get myself like a good solid shot. So that's at 12. And it progresses, it went to, going to bodegas. I looked older, so I was able to buy beer. I'd get a 6-pack of beer. I remember sitting with a friend of mine. We went into a sukkah with a 6-pack of beer, and I was probably 13, and we just drank the whole 6-pack. And then sneaking booze out in plastic bottles and then drinking it outside. In our culture, it's changed a lot, but in Crown Heights, or at least, in the environments where I was in, nobody noticed anything wrong about that, of the way I was drinking publicly. And I was very proud of how much I can handle. So that's like 14, 15, I start smoking cigarettes. I start getting into trouble. Again, not a bad kid, but just like, for this, I was in a school, and somebody started fighting with my chavrusa. He was like this smaller guy, smarter than me. So I was very happy and all set up. But somebody was, what I believe was like bullying him. So I stepped up. I stepped in and ended up hitting him. And I got expelled, with like, if you want to come back, you have to pay $25. So I'm not coming back. That's how it ended that year. So the next year I went out of town. I was 15 years old, and very fortunate to have gone to an amazing yeshiva. And I was in Venice, Italy, which eventually moved to Mexico and then South Africa and all these. So I got to experience all that. It was really good for me to leave town. But the drinking definitely just increased over time. More and more.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. And I think it's important for listeners to know that someone doesn't have to be a bad kid in order to suffer with an addiction, to suffer with feelings of insecurity. Sometimes it's comforting to see, there was this easy stream of events that led to this sort of behavior. And it's not always like that. So I appreciate you clarifying. We'll pause you here. Chaya, can you give us a little sneak peek into your background?
Wow, my background. I grew up in a gorgeous beach town home, Coogee Beach in Australia. It was
just like Crown Heights, just a little different.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to have the upbringing that I had. I grew up my father was a rabbi, my mom was a rebbitzin. They ran a shul that was a few houses away from our home, and we lived in a completely non-Jewish neighborhood. It was beachgoers and, tourists, and just like this, amazing, amazing place to walk around and be a part of. And I wasn't far from my cousins and my school and the Jewish community. So I had both lifestyles. What was, I think, so special about that was that I had this vision and open-minded of what the world is and who I am. I'm the rabbi's daughter, and I'm a Chabad, from girl, and I go to a Jewish school, but yet non-Jewish people, in our neighborhood, and people come to our home who aren't from. So I really I felt like I had a beautiful balance of a from upbringing in a way that was very open-minded. I was happy. I had lots of friends. I did well in school. Looking back, I had a beautiful childhood. I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful when you can grow up in an open-minded home and be able to see. I feel like it almost sort of highlights the best views of Judaism as an Eved Hashem, as someone that opens their home, as someone that practices. It's really beautiful you had that opportunity, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks for asking.
And I'm really curious to hear what it was like for the two of you. We didn't get to that part yet. Once you were married and you were going through your addiction or struggling with your addiction, can you share with us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So at first it was just alcohol, and the day I smoked weed, I was obsessed, and I was a daily smoker from that day. So that was at 19. We met at 18, Chaya and I, in Israel.
It's your world opened up and changed into a whole, you had a whole new lease on life almost.
Yeah, it was definitely a turbo injection, it was like a whole, it was definitely I talk about that first day that I remember alcohol really doing for me what I wanted it to do. And the only way I could describe it is noticing that there's color in the world and being able to hear birds and notice things and look people in the eye and say hi. Those when I think back, I don't remember being able to do that. And I remember being envious of those around me that they were able to and I couldn't. So something very similar to that feeling happened the first time I smoked weed as well, where I was so uninhibited.
And Chaya, when you met Misha, did you know that he was previously he was a previous user, I would say, because I don't know in the story if you were in recovery or if you were still using.
No, when we met at 18. He was not in recovery. He was drinking a lot. We met when we were 18. We were in Israel. I was in seminary. He was in yeshiva. And it was also my first step out of like my small home, and not small home, but hometown, and like Israel, single, friends, like I'm free.
Legal drinking age.
Legal drinking. Well, Australians can drink at 18. Yes. But,
okay.
But this environment of like no parents around. And I just like stepped into that world of like partying. So we drank together a lot, like every Motzei Shabbos, like when you have night off, like I didn't do the things that I was supposed to do in my seminary, but like I did what my life, wherever I was meant to go. So I didn't notice it. I didn't know that it was an addiction. I knew that I could drink once and then for a whole month not think about drinking again. And I started to see that as we got to like become friends, as we got to know each other, as we started dating. I'm like, oh, you drink a lot. Like he drinks a lot. It's like a big deal. But again, that first year, it wasn't like he must be an alcoholic. Like all the guys that were 18 and 19 were doing that. And some of the girls were doing that too.
Yeah. Also wasn't part of our vocabulary whatsoever in those days.
Yeah. What's an alcoholic? Someone who's drunk under a bridge. At 19, so we were on and off dating for a few years, but at 19, when he first smoked, I wasn't with him, but he called me. He's like, I'm going to try this thing.
I think I made a promise. I said, if I ever smoke weed, we'll do it together.
Yeah, we didn't. But that really changed. Like I really felt, oh, he needs this. He's addicted to this. I felt it like immediately. And like, I felt that pit in my stomach. I'm like, oh, this is an addiction. He's addicted, not an addiction. He's addicted to this thing. He needs it and he can't live without it. So yeah, I knew when we were dating, and I'm grateful that I knew. And I knew other things, like when we shared many late nights and spoke about our childhood. And yeah, so when he was telling me his stories of childhood, like I felt this cloud of darkness go above us. And like, I almost like inhaled it. Like, this is my problem. This is my responsibility. I need to take care of him. I need to keep it a secret. And the next 4 years of dating was on and off, like, cause I knew like red flag. What am I doing? I'll never marry him. But I loved him. We were so connected. Like I knew, like I was drawn to him. My insides were drawn to him. Like I knew that we were like, but I couldn't bring myself to marry him because of everything that he brought and the way I was raised and the way I came to it. I mean, eventually I could tell you the story, but eventually we did get married and quietly kept that with me. And for an 18-year-old, like for me, at least, like looking back now, like it's kind of traumatizing to know that and to keep it a secret and to like, and then to say, okay, I'm going to marry this guy, like, but here I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it must have felt very confusing because you couldn't imagine life without him, but you also didn't know how to live life with him in this way. And you were alone.
Yeah.
Because sharing it, I sort of want to hear how come you felt like you couldn't share it.
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, how come I couldn't?
I mean, times were very different.
Yeah.
When did you share it? You share it with?
I shared it with one, like a therapist. We had one session together. I think I shared one or two things with one friend, but nobody that was going to like, I wasn't going to share it with my parents. You're not going to marry him. Already they were like, I don't think so. I was ashamed of it. Like, I think I wanted to hold you on this like higher pedestal and not let anyone know the real him. Like, and what's wrong with me? Why am I going to marry somebody who has this story? And if I do, and when I did, how could I tell people? Because then I must be a loser if I'm marrying somebody who has this story, who has this problem, who's really like, I didn't tell any of my friends that he had an addiction. Everyone saw what they saw and everyone knew what they knew, but I wasn't like really spilling it in a way that could have helped me or could have just like alleviated my aloneness in what it was.
It seems like there was a lot of shame.
Yeah. Yeah. I needed to marry someone else. And yet I married and I chose him. Like, I guess there must be something wrong with me and my choice and my decision-making skills.
When back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating because I think today something that we always talk about on the podcast is if we could appreciate who someone became because of what they've been through, we'd only have more respect and more awe. And I want to share to the listeners who either know someone who's been in recovery or have heard about recovery or know nothing about recovery. Think about a really hard character trait that's extremely difficult to navigate through. And then imagine you had physiological symptoms that were urging you to do that thing. And if you didn't do it, it almost felt like it was out of your hands. Anyone that's in recovery or is navigating through it, you're going against your physiological makeup, which is to do, and to have that restraint. Oh my gosh, there's no greater force of nature to be able to practice and have that restraint. And my respect is just so high for anyone in it, for you. And I hope that's something that people can see in others. If they've gone through recovery, that they could stand proud and say, yeah, I'm in recovery. I'm not going to have that whine, that your awe just increases from what you've heard now and from what you don't know, because my, oh my, what a person you have to be. And I want to hear on your end, in your marriage, how did that manifest as it's this quiet secret, and yet something that's a very big part of your life?
Yeah. So there's two things we're talking about here. One is what I shared with Chaya was something that I carried, a story of shame that I carried. And here's a person that I shared it with, and she's still here. So I was never going to let her go. I was never going to let her go. The second thing is the addiction. It's two separate things. And when we talk about the addiction, it just only got worse. And it started off, and most of it actually was in me just simply not being available. Either I was passed out, or I wasn't emotionally there, or like just very practically the amount of times that like we got ready, we got into the car, we're finally ready to go. Oh, extra 30 seconds passed. I need to go back in and take another hit. We're going out on a date. I'm going to take a flask or something with me. Like it's always part of every plan, before and after everything. Wake up in the morning. It's one of the first things I do before I go to sleep, many, many times before I go to sleep. To the extent that, and it truly feels terrible thinking about it, but, we would go visit Chaya's parents in Sydney, and I would basically make a condition. Like, you want me to come? No problem. You have to arrange my weed. You have friends, you'll reach out to them. Otherwise, I'm not coming. I mean, I don't know if I said, otherwise I'm not coming, but that was like a given, like, yeah, which feels terrible. And
you also had like two little babies through this period.
Yeah. Which both were like, I'll stop before we get married. I'll stop before we get pregnant. I'll stop when we get pregnant. I'll stop when the baby's born. I'll stop before the next baby. And all those promises, although they were 100% sincere, I couldn't keep them. It was very much out of body. Like I would just watch my body go do things that I absolutely did not want to do.
Yeah. It's such a good metaphor. I'd love if you could expand on that for people to understand better what the experience is like, what battling those demons is like when you say, okay, today I'm going to stop. and I see my wife and I see my kids and I'm so ready. Can you describe to people what happens in that moment that makes it feel like it's impossible to stop?
Yeah, I think it starts off with like, oh, some sort of outside force is going to help me. You know, getting on the plane. I can't smoke on the plane, and we're going to fly for 14 hours. You know, even when we went to Australia, I would have a friend meet me at the airport. We had a 2-hour stopover. I would rush out, meet a friend, smoke, then get back on the plane and meet with the family to finish the next lag. So, but there's 14 hours. That's a head start, and it's an outside force. You know, the situation is going to help me. It's going to give me a head start. But like there was nothing to lean on aside for like determination. So coming to Australia, it's like, okay, that's it. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to stay strong. But I'm feeling these feelings. I got to do something with it. Okay. You know, I'll take another drink. This is all just stop smoking.
And when you say I'm feeling these feelings, can you describe what those were?
For sure, restlessness. If I didn't have the word restlessness, I would say looking for a place in the world where I can feel comfortable. And hoping, you know, maybe it's on the beach, maybe it's outside, maybe it's if I sit this way, maybe it's if I eat that food, maybe if anything, but nothing works. Nothing works. And things but things on the inside are getting worse. I'm feeling more and more uneasy. I'm feeling more and more ashamed of myself because I'm behaving in ways that I don't like. Because my emotions are definitely dictating my behaviors, and we're arguing. I remember that Pesach, like I couldn't sleep. I would sweat all night because I was detoxing, and we're getting into arguments, and like within like 2 days, I'm like, we're done. Like I cannot stay in this marriage. Again, thinking that being out of this marriage is going to create some sort of freedom, you know. So. It's just like, this is just so painful. It's so uneasy. There's just no place that I can feel okay. You know, and it's amazing how like one drink, one hit, and all of a sudden, you know, I didn't take away the problem, but I certainly don't feel it right now. And if I want to have as many moments as I can of that because everything else is just so painful. Which, just to fast forward to the end, when no matter how much I drank and smoked, it wasn't enough. And that's when, you know, I thought it would be a good idea to just end my life. Because I didn't see any other option. You know, so.
You're really brave for coming here to share your story. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are hearing your pain and using it as their own form of strength. And I think together, you're really a power couple. People have arguments in a marriage and get divorced because of an argument. And here you were going through hell together and you're so united. And I can't think of something that's more inspiring as a couple, as a viewer, to see with work, even something that feels damaged can become invincible. I think that's extraordinary.
Thank you.
Of course.
I forget.
I think that's natural because it becomes your norm, and it's beyond extraordinary. I want to pause you right here.
We'll be right back to our episode, but first, you have to check out Pizza Biza, making fresh hot pizzas on the spot by their professional chefs, indoor or outdoor in their pizza ovens, meat or dairy, plus full catering around the tri-state area and Florida. Specializing in events with several hundred people with no lines. You heard right. Full menu. You have to check them out on Instagram at Pizza Biza and visit them at pizzabiza.com. Pizza's my favorite food, so please invite me, Pizza Biza, on Instagram, and check them out at pizzabiza.com. These are the people you want to call. Pizza Biza, I'll see you at my next event. If you've ever wanted something more than anything in the world, then you've probably tried a segula or two. And if you're anything like me, then you've been dejected and disappointed when it seems like it didn't work. And that's why I love this organization called Better Than a Segula. Like their name, we learn on Simchas Torah, Ein Segula Ketorah. There is no better Segula than Torah study. What this organization does is they have a group of Torah scholars that will learn something on your behalf in the zechus of what you want. And even better, the entire process is personalized. They can study a certain daf in the Gemara for 40 days, whatever you want, whatever speaks to your heart, whatever you connect to, you can let them know. So if this is something that you would find supportive, inspiring, and encouraging, you can contact them by either clicking the show notes below or take out your phone and call them at 732-364-7029. That's betterthanasegula.org, Better Than a Segula, an organization that's there to support you in the way that they know how to and in the way that they can. For so long, we've been taught to believe that you need to wait for things to change in order for life to get better. And you deserve to live the life of your dreams before things change. And that's what Live Better Academy is here for, enabling you to enrich your life by exploring the 5 core areas that contribute to your fulfillment and happiness. This course is here to make sure that you no longer need to wait. Exploring spirituality, health and wellness, recreation and soul, social support and environment, and your profession and ambition, my course helps you understand what you're missing, explore any gaps that need areas of improvement, and truly understand what you need to do to create the life that you deserve. It's a 5-week course, so you have to be fully committed. But the easy part is that it's all virtual. You can access it anywhere and anytime. It includes pre-recorded classes, intense coursework material to take the information, turn it into application, and ultimately transformation, and a live group class, which includes me and your peers. It's truly extraordinary, and I want you to be a part of it. So if you're interested, click the link below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if it's the right fit for you, or send a quick text message to the number below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation. I cannot wait to meet you and be on this journey with you so that you can finally live life better.
I'm so curious to hear what that experience was like when you reached this tolerance that the hit wasn't doing anything for you anymore. But I just want to take a pause here to turn to you, Chaya, to hear what this experience was like on your end.
Which specific part? Because there's many stories.
Of course.
Yeah.
As Misha's using and not being able to be the partner or the parent at the same time, how did you manage?
I'm trying to go back into those moments and experience what it. Oh, wow. I think there was so much that I shut off. And also the addict, I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to talk about it. I mean, I did, and I felt it and I dealt with it, as well as me closing my eyes is I definitely denied a lot of it to myself. That's what I was just experiencing.
Denial.
Yeah.
Denial is it's confusing because it really protects us in the now, but then it harms us later. And denial is what you needed to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't say it was purposeful. And also I was, to a certain extent, I was super functional.
Yeah.
I was not messy. I was very respectful. I wasn't, anytime I drank, no matter how much I drank, it's always respectful, always clean, always ended up in my bed, always, all those things. So it's, I just want to speak to I don't know if it was denial, or it's just confusing.
Yeah.
It's just really confusing. On one hand, I see him, he's functional. I started a community, I started a show. There's a lot of things that I did Yeah. Yeah. Just want
Right.
to
And,
speak
and
to that.
I know there's like along those lines, like we were hosting like big Shabbos meals and Purim parties, and I was starting my business and I was going so public. Like I was the face of the duo of the frock. And so life had to be good on the outside. Not that like I'm a person who hides things. Like I was showing so much of my world, but like, and I think that's why the denial really helped. But it was like hard. It was, I wanted to say some other things. It was really, really hard. It was very frustrating. I think like the hardest parts for me were like, you should wake up and be my partner in the morning, and with 2 little babies and like not sleeping so well. And then like doing things like hosting and work. And then like you don't function until 11, 12, 1, 2, depending on the day. You know, a work day was 11. Shabbos was 1. Sunday was 2, 3. Was like, I wanted to like smash my whole house down. I was so much anger in those moments, and I had nobody to like let it out on, and nobody to tell. Like if I was afraid that if I would, you know, share my anger with you in ways that like I really felt, I was scared. Like, well, who's the beast inside this person who's like acting respectful and being a nice husband and showing out? Like his friends would be like, you have the best husband. You don't know. He's such a great guy. He started this shul and he's such a good friend and he's so deep and he's so this. And I'm like, you have no clue. Like you really don't know. And our home, you know, showed so much love and joy and fun. And we had that as well. So again, it was confusing. And then I had like amazing friends and a sister and siblings around that like didn't know, but I had my world with them to like go out with friends and to have a business with and to like distract me and to fill my whole everything with so much that like, it was like this little world, you that people know, people that I don't like, and then me as who I am as well. So it was just a lot of managing, and I'm really good. I'm really like, I can do a lot. I can hold a lot. I'm talented. I can manage to like somehow figure it out. But like, I'm sure. And my sister who knew me the most and who, you know, worked with me day to day, she was like crying inside. And she's like, I wish they would get divorced, because she watched it so close.
And sure.
Yeah. And sure too.
Was that ever something that crossed your mind? Divorce?
The question that like was posed to me by a therapist that I finally, you know, went to find help the last few months before recovery hit. And she's like, what if he's doing the same thing in 5 years? If your life looks exactly the same, probably worse, it will. Would you get divorced? And that was the first time like that kind of like, I pushed it away. I was like, it's not going to be. It's not going to happen. Funny thing is that post-recovery in our mature, healthy marriage in the last 12 years, that's when divorce actually, like at different points in our relationship, like actually was like, oh, this is something that I'm really considering, or this is something we're talking about, or this is what I'm feeling, or like, you know, that was more of like a viable thing. Then it was like survive, deny. I have 2 babies. Like, no, it was just, and also like the shame in that, what I thought that was, I was 20s, like between 22 and 27. Like for me, it wasn't an option then.
Yeah. Yeah. You were just in survival mode.
Yeah.
And denial was a big part of survival mode. And I see all the emotions it brings up for you. And wondering, while you were going through that, did you know of any couple who was in recovery, who had gone through recovery, anything like that?
I had friends who were going through challenging marriages. It wasn't clear that one was, you know, married to an alcoholic. Towards the end, I think one of my good friends was in that situation, but it wasn't clear. Like, and the thing we leaned on, I think, so much as friends, like, oh, my husband did this, like he slept in, or he drank too much at the Shabbos meal. Like another friend, her husband drank tons and was like rowdy. He maybe wasn't an alcoholic, but like we called each other after Shabbos to vent. Like he did this, he did that. We never really like maybe addressed what it really was, but just like the venting and the sharing, and everyone had challenges in marriage, especially early relationships, young couples, less support in the world and less awareness of what we were going through. Some were addicts, some were not. Some of them are now divorced.
Yeah.
There was little moments of reprieve in the sharing.
And the reason why I bring it up is because part of what we do here on Stories of Hope is we bring up conversations that are so long overdue in the effort to provide support, education, and guidance. And I wonder what it would have been like if you had met a couple
In
who
recovery.
said, like, yeah, hi, I'm in recovery, and what sort of bells that may have lit up for you, or
Well,
what's
I can only answer that based on our experience as being the first people that we knew that were officially in recovery. And I could say confidently that hundreds and hundreds of people are in recovery today as a result of us
wow,
being open about our story.
incredible.
Yeah, I had no idea what AA, the 12 steps recovery was.
Hmm.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't part of our vocabulary whatsoever. And I think it's helpful to mention that I don't think any of us really had normal friends. Like all of our friends are full of character and full of stories, and a lot of our friends have been through a lot. And when I was between, let's say, 18 and 22, I lost a few friends to overdose. And everybody was drinking. And I was one of the better ones because I didn't do any hard drugs. Other guys were doing tons of pills and heroin and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm not a drug addict.
Mm.
Do you think there are more young couples today? I'm not supposed to ask you a question.
There's no rules.
Okay. Wait. Are there more young couples today who are going through this that have friends who are in recovery and are seeing, this is what you do?
Well, I can tell you, as someone that's worked in recovery, someone that's been on Madrigos, which is an incredible organization for those in recovery, I can tell you that knowledge is power and education is information. And I think one of the most difficult things in navigating any source of pain is going through it alone. Yeah. It's terrifying. You don't know how to get through it. You don't even know if there's someone that can pull you out. You almost think that there's no option to consider an alternative way of living. And sometimes that leads to destructive behaviors just in an effort to feel better. So I know there's a lot going on. And I know that there's a lot of hope that's been shared through honesty, community, support, and seeing someone who's been there and back and knowing, oh, that's an option. I didn't know I can come back. I just thought I'd have to figure out how to get out. I personally find there's nothing more inspiring than seeing people who have ventured through the war and come out shining. It doesn't mean they're not hurt. Doesn't mean they're not broken. They may have even lost some important members of their army, but they come out. They come out. We all need to see that, especially when it feels like we'll never get through it 100%. And that's why I was so grateful that you both came on today. I want to know, Misha, if you could bring us to that point where you said your use was so destructive that you considered taking your life. Is that something you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah. That was a funny reaction. Yeah, sure. It was on a Motzei Simchas Torah. I didn't know that it was going to be my last drink, but I drank a lot that day. I had run out of weed, so I ended up drinking a lot more. And it was Simchas Torah, and I was drinking a lot more than usual every single day. Again, super functional. Like walking straight, I come home, Yom Tov is over. I had already bathed the kids. I don't know what time it was, but I remember the kids were like in pajamas. I think their hair was still wet. And Chaya got a phone call from one of her close friends, cousins, and they needed some sort of emotional support. I'm like, Chaya, go. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of the kids. I'll put them to bed. And I ended up passing out. And because our sukkah was out the front, so in Crown Heights, we have the sukkahs out front, and it's right there on the street. And our neighborhood was not a safe neighborhood. To give you one description, is that like I once saw somebody getting shot and killed next door.
Oh, wow.
In front of our house. So it was not a safe neighborhood at the time. So I passed out. I think I set my kids up with a video. And they went out.
4.
They were 2 and 4, and they went out the front door. I guess to look for Chaya or something. Again, it was Sukkah, so we were going in and out, but here they were alone. And Chaya came home and saw them outside. And it was very, very concerning for her. So she came in and she was very upset and tried to wake me up. And in her efforts to wake me up, I got really upset. And I turned into somebody that I'm very ashamed of. I thank God I didn't physically do anything to hurt her, but I was kind of switching back and forth from somebody who was like enraged and ashamed, back and forth, over a period of probably an hour. And yeah, it's vague for me now, but
I remember all the details. I could feel it.
We still have, I looked at the mirror and I hated the person I saw in the mirror. And I smashed my head against the mirror and smashed it. It's Zerch L'Churban. It's still there, like with the missing glass. Not on purpose. But it's still there. It's a good reminder. And yeah, it was.
And then you went to our porch and locked the door and said, "Don't follow me out," and said other things.
Yeah. I called on my way upstairs. I called my brother and I said, "Please come really quickly before." Again, this is probably one of those moments where I'm shifting back and forth. And I said, "Please come quickly to stop me from doing something to myself." Chaya, in the meantime, had some guidance from Simi and Shua, her sister and late husband. And he had enough knowledge and experience to say, "Kol Tzala," and my brothers showed up and they were pleading with me. And they saw all that stuff from the outside. "We look up to you. You have so much to live for. You have so many good things. You inspire us." But it didn't mean anything to me. And I sincerely believed at that moment when I was in that side of shame that I am a problem and a burden, and I'm here and I want to relieve my loved ones from this problem. And thank God, one of the Hatzalah members came up and we were talking and talking and talking. It felt like forever. And somehow they convinced me to get into the Hatzalah member's vehicle. He didn't tell me where he was taking me. He was just telling me, "You need to go somewhere." As I was getting into his vehicle, I turned to Chaya and I said, "This better work. I really hope this works because there's no hope for me." And they took me to a psych ward. Not so fun. Not so fun, but it saved my life.
Wow. To be in a place where you feel so broken that the alternative is not to be alive is something beyond my ability to understand. And it gives us such a strong visual of of the battles that someone could be struggling with. During this time, Chaya, you're watching him go in an ambulance. I don't know where your kids are. What's going through your head?
There was a lot of things to do, noise. Like you said, my sister and brother-in-law came over and they were instructing me. My sister put them to bed, just was with them, so I didn't have to worry about them. And then my brother-in-law sat me down. He's like, "Call your parents right now. Now's the time. You tell them what this is." And for months beforehand, he was like, "I think you should go to Al-Anon. I think you should see this help." He noticed, and he was the only person who kind of said those things to me. And he didn't let me I was petrified to call them. And he's like, this is what you're going to do. And I called them. And I said, Moishe's really struggling. The Hatzalah took him. I didn't even know I didn't want to say I don't even know what I was saying. I didn't say he threatened to kill himself. And he was roaming on the porch and locked the door and said things about his friends who had lost their lives, I
was envying them.
So I just told them vaguely he's struggling. And I think my brother-in-law shared more, and they were on the flight the next day. But really, I think it was in that moment, and definitely over the next week when he finally went to the rehab, I was like, this is it. I knew it. I believed it. And friends of mine or people that I met at the time or after were like, how did you manage 2 little kids? Your husband went to rehab, was gone for 5 weeks. I'm like, this is the best thing that could have ever happened to us. I think this switch in my mind and in my brain that knowing that this is the, I don't know, there's no chance for him to fail. I didn't think for a second, I knew it, and I felt in my everything. I think that helped. I think that my belief, my knowing, I don't know where that came from. Was it I was desperate and I had to believe? I know that others in that situation would be like, I hate him. Finally, he's gone. I'm so mad and resentful and hurt. I wasn't like that at all. I was just okay. I know where we're going. I don't know. And
maybe your
Hashem
love
listened.
Yeah, it sounds like you held on to the love that you had for him, even though he wasn't the person that you loved then. You believed he could become that person that you fell in love with.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful. I want to take a little pause. If someone has been in this place of denial and shame, and they're with their spouse or alone, they're struggling, or their spouse is struggling, and they want to tell their parents, or they want to tell someone that can support them, what would you tell them if they're holding back and they're not telling anyone and they really need help because they have shame and they have denial? What would you tell them?
So many thoughts. I'm hearing the voice well, what if they didn't have parents like I do who support them? Sorry. I just that's the reality of some people, and sorry, that's the reality of the voices in my head.
That might be something they're thinking too.
Yeah. I think worst case, you have nothing else to lose. I mean, you could lose, let's say your family members are going to say, you're the problem. We told you so. You're already lost in that situation. So I think the best case scenario, most likely, whether it's a friend, a therapist, a parent, a teacher, they're going to find help for you. I don't know. I think there's going to be someone in this world that's going to know, that's going to help you and support you.
Wow. And what would you say to the listener if it's a parent or a sibling who's hearing this information? What should they say that would be really comforting to the person that's finally disclosing this information?
Someone once said to me, and I love this line, but maybe there's others, I'm really sorry that you're here and that you reached out to me for this reason, and you're in no better place. I'm here to help you, and thank God you're here. So lucky to have reached out and finally have the support that you do. I love that. I was like, wow, really? This is the worst thing I could ever share. And there were other things as well, but I'm like, I mean, a little bit of a rambling.
There's nothing to apologize for. You're just naturally changing history by sharing your thoughts and feelings. That's nothing to apologize for. That's really valuable. That's really valuable. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Misha, you were in rehab for 5 weeks.
It was a week in the psych ward and then 4 weeks in rehab.
And did you have a relapse after that?
No, thank God.
Wow. How long have you been clean for?
Almost 12 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bat mitzvah going on bar mitzvah. Got to make a party for that one. Wow. And now you work with couples or individuals who are in recovery?
Yeah, both.
Both.
Yeah.
And what would you say helped keep the glue of your marriage while you were going through all of this?
Being in recovery for over 12 and like about 12 and a half years, I honestly don't know anybody that has had the type of support system that we have. From our recovery community in our neighborhood, we've been part of multiple different groups. Our friends are incredibly supportive. My family dropped everything to take care of me. So there were many things going for us. Number one, we were open and we didn't hide it. I shared it with my rabbi at Shul. I shared it, which came to visit me at rehab. We shared it with her parents, with my parents. They came to visit me in the psych ward and in rehab. All my family members swiped their cards and did that. They did that. Rehab is very expensive.
Oh yeah.
So that really makes a big difference. But I think, if I can, when I was 10 years sober, there's a certain organization of young Jewish people in recovery that wanted to celebrate the 10-year mark, right? And I said, what are we celebrating? And he said, first of all, it's not about you celebrating. I need other people to hear so that they know there's hope. But we're celebrating your love and service. Your sobriety is the gift that God gives you. You don't earn sobriety. It's given to you as a gift. But what your part in it is to love people and be of service. And all the work that I do in 12-step work and therapy work is all about refining myself to be useful. So the more useful I am and the more I act upon that usefulness, the more sobriety I get. So we had an insane support system. We really did. But I think our support system wouldn't be helpful to us whatsoever unless we were honest with them.
Wow. And so much of our culture is surrounded with wine. How does that play a role in your life? Cut and
for the
grape
most
juice
part,
for the
it
win?
doesn't. Yeah, sparkling with the gold.
Oh, living large, living large.
I remember discovering it at one point. I was like, oh, yeah, this is more honorable. Yeah, I mean, over the last few years, like I've done many things to make sure that I'm covered, including, going to meetings and picking up the phone. We call it the 300-pound phone. And having a plan. My sponsor is this South African, says, "Do you have a good reason to be there? Do you have a plan?" And always just having a plan. And in the beginning, it was like, you want to go to this Purim party? No problem. If I'm feeling triggered, I'm leaving. Are you okay with that? Okay, cool. Well, let's go. So knowing, having a plan and having an agreement before I go anywhere, make sure there's a meeting close by. And at the first occasions, they were very difficult. Family occasions like engagement parties, weddings, things like that. I'm also very fortunate to have multiple family members and relatives that are in recovery. So, before the wedding, we all get together and we're like, have a little mini meeting, get the corner in the parking lot. And we're checking in with each other.
And is there something that we can do as a community to make it more comfortable for anyone that's in recovery?
Yeah, I think there's this one initiative that I started and I'm very proud of. And I think all the organizations have adopted it now. So I'm going to take credit for it today. If somebody says no, don't push. You have no idea what the person's going through, just don't push. Like that itself eliminates a massive burden, the social burden, the practical burden of like, oh man, the pressure, all that type of stuff.
No to an offer of alcohol.
Yeah, any offer of alcohol. If somebody says no, just walk away. Just don't say it. If you want, you can say, oh wow, it's so cool that you can do this without alcohol. It complement them, if anything. But to pressure, like if you just take away the pressure, that itself will alleviate like a huge percentage of the damage that's done in those social settings. Having this podcast, talking about it, you know, I think in my experience, being open about my story, education, because I'm part of Neshama Soso, so a big part of our work is education. You know, that was definitely the first number of years have been just focused on education. You know, if people just know.
Yeah.
You know, I think as, you know, a good friend of mine, Ellie Nash, he's famous now. He said, the opposite of it's shame. Right? So if we ourselves, you know, be a little bit more courageous about our individual story, that'll take away those that are ashamed, you know, are more ashamed of it. And if we stop shaming people who are drunks, even that terminology, then yeah, it'll be easier for somebody to ask for help. And this is like with everything.
Yeah, I'm thinking as you're speaking, like imagine we eliminated shame from our own challenge and we can tell someone with pride, yeah, this is what I've been through, or this is what I've struggled with. Then we don't have to rely or seek that affirmation and validation from community who's not really equipped on how to help us with this specific area, but we've provided ourselves with that confidence that we've been seeking from others. And on our closing thought, I wanted to ask you, Chaya, I'm just blown away. Can we put Chaya on a pedestal for a minute?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Like,
she has everything that we have it's a partnership. And as much as work as I've done on myself, Chaya's done just as much or different, but absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Because Chaya really could have left. You could have left. You could have done a lot of things, and you really fought. And I want to know what you would tell someone else that's fighting, that really wants their marriage to stay whole. And it could be unrelated to addiction, but there's just their marriage. I mean, one of the main causes of dissatisfaction today is unhealthy relationships. So what sort of strength might you give them? What do you think you did to take something that was seemingly broken in your relationship and heal it? Whatever comes from your heart. It's all beautiful. I've heard it already.
Yeah, I'm going into the specifics of our story, which is not what is needed right now. I want to say that I reached in and found a point inside of myself that I knew and I believed with every fiber of my being. And that was the message from Hashem. It wasn't my own making. It wasn't my own work. That like, this is my partner. This is who I'm meant to be. And that's the reason why I married him. Like, it was like this like whoosh, download in this crazy moment. And I lean on that. And I lean on trusting myself and trusting Hashem and our story and everything that we're going through. And I need to do that with many other challenges in my life. And if I know that, and I believe that, then that will push me, enable me to be a very supportive wife. Go to all the meetings. Go. Like, don't be home. Like, I wanted him to be at those meetings because he was a better person. Like the small advice, like, don't complain when your husband goes to a meeting. You know, send them away. Get babysitters if you need to. Find whatever it is. Like, that's just like a random, specific advice for that. But like, nothing is more important than our marriage surviving. And I knew that because you said that as well. Like, first and foremost is my sobriety. And if I'm sober, then I could be alive and I could be a husband and we could be married. So that's the most important thing for me, is to keep our marriage alive, to keep myself healthy, and to lean on to that, like, knowing and trust and belief. And that really propelled me and continuously keeps me going.
Wow. So it's knowing that if this is where I am, it's where God guided me to be,
Mm-hmm.
and that everything I do should be healing and rebuilding my marriage, which is the most important thing in the
Mhm.
world.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I might not have had that language 12 years ago like that, but like looking back, like I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I stay? Why did I believe? How do I know that? Like, I think that was just like, it is my guiding force
Yeah.
in my life.
Wow.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Reach out.
Don't give up.
Mhm.
Stories of hope. If you don't have hope, Misha and Chaya are here to lend it. We'll put their email address, their contact information, their handles in the show notes. You don't need to suffer alone. If something feels like it's broken, look at what they've been through and consider what would happen if it was rebuilt. What the two of you have is beautiful. And I'm so grateful that you came in today to share it with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another special episode of Stories of Hope. If this one made you emotional, if it made you shocked, if it made you have further insights on what the Jewish community needs and how we can make it better, let me know. Let Misha and Chaya know. Your feedback matters. Your feedback is really, really important. And as I always tell you, even though you don't see me respond, and I kind of wish you could, I read all of it every week. Chaya and Moishe share their heart and soul with you. And I think a beautiful way to say thank you is simply by taking a second, taking 10 seconds to let them know. Their emails will be in the show notes, so you can send them an email as well. And I love hearing from you. As you've noticed, we've tried to make our content diverse to hit every target audience, every social and communal need. And if there's something I'm missing, I want you to let me know. So please reach out at soh@meaningfulminute.org so that we can take everything that you want and bring it to the table and create the change we need to see. Thank you.